Men who are married to a woman who earns more than you, how do you manage finances together? My wife and I used to earn about the same, but after she moved into a management role, she started out-earning me significantly. I was genuinely happy for her and for us. Our household income went up, and I thought we'd build more security together. But over time, I've felt a shift in the power dynamic. She no longer wants me to manage our finances, even though I've always been the more financially responsible one. She lives a luxury, paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle and has built up a large amount of credit card debt. Meanwhile, I've always lived frugally and built a solid investment portfolio. For a while, I prioritized using our combined income to pay off her high-interest debt. Recently, though, she's pulled back and wants more control over her money. Now we're basically doing a strict 50-50 setup. Each of us deposits a fixed amount into a joint account, not based on income percentage, and we manage the rest of our money separately. We didn't sign a prenuptial agreement, but at this point, it feels like we're roommates splitting bills, not partners building a life together. How do you other men navigate this kind of financial dynamic? Especially when your wife earns more, do you combine everything, keep it separate, or split proportionally? And how do you handle conversations around control and responsibility? Story 1. The exact same way we handled them whenever I made more than her, and the exact same way we handle them now that she is a traditional stay-at-home wife and I am the only one working. It did not matter when I was making $50,000 and she was not making anything when we got married. It did not matter when she peaked out at $250,000 a year and I was only making $90,000. It does not matter now that I am making $110,000 and she is no longer working. All money went into a single bank account. She handled monthly expenses. I handled investing and growing the money. We discussed every large purchase. Her money was my money was her money, and both of our money belonged to both of us. Story 2. If you are married, that is your debt too. You need to figure out your finances since you are both responsible for them. Story 3. Brother. Pay attention to this behavior from your wife and have an honest, candid conversation about finances with her. I do not mean to be alarmist, but I have heard many stories that women who out-earn their husbands tend to pull the plug on the marriage. The fact that she has become stricter with managing her own finances and is emphasizing my money over our money does not give me a good feeling. Story 4. Not me, because I am not married. With my parents, while my father ultimately ended up making more money than my mother, there were long periods when she was making more, and I do not think that ever factored into their decisions. Their money was, and in retirement, is always shared equally. All decisions are made together. The same applies to my brother. Currently, his wife makes more than him, although his earning potential is likely higher than hers. It does not factor into their finances. They always make decisions as equal partners. Having said that, I think your wife needs to stop acting like she has more leverage in the financial relationship because she earns more. My advice would be the same if the roles were reversed. You two are partners and she should act like it. Story 5. It's our money. We have one account. Everything goes in and comes out of it. Splitting finances with your wife just seems strange to me. That's how it was when she made more than me, and now that I'm the sole earner making 3 times what she used to, and she is a stay-at-home mom, that's still how it is. Story 6. I handle it by having a responsible wife. She earns more money than I do, but she does not waste money. We built a life and a large house together. She pays a bit more towards our credit and hires a maid. I contribute more to the household chores and invite her to dinners, thoughtful gifts, and holidays. It works well and is not even a topic because it feels balanced. Also, it maintains the illusion of the traditional role of the man as provider, which is, of course, untrue. Story 7. I'm not a finance expert. That's my wife. However, I suggest you set a financial goal together and both work towards it. Decide how much each of you is expected to contribute to that goal. In my relationship, I'm the one less skilled with finances. I consider everything that isn't a bill as spending. My partner and I established a goal, and I contribute a fixed amount towards it every paycheck. I pay my half of the bills. After I contribute to the goal, whatever remains is my spending money to use as I wish. I treat the financial partnership goal as a bill to help with savings. My partner often directs her spending towards the goal, which is her choice. She frequently earns more than I do since I work only 1 to 3 days per week. We keep shared money in a joint account. Bills are paid from one account, and savings are kept in an untouchable account. Sit down with your partner, discuss your expenses, and create a budget together. We developed our plan collaboratively. Work as a team instead of letting one person lead. Story 8. We have experienced many situations in our marriage and relationship. I currently earn more than my wife, but I went part-time after she finished maternity leave, so she earned more for a while. I basically take care of the finances because she is not good at it. However, if she earned significantly more and wanted to spend some of that on herself, I would probably consider each of us putting a certain amount in each month and having our own funds to draw from, save, or whatever. Your situation sounds complicated. There seems to be a breakdown that I hope you can fix. It does not sound good. Story 9. It's our money, not my money or her money. Everything goes into one bank account. Separate finances have always seemed like a lack of trust to me. Story 10. I don't think you are the wrong person here. Decisions should be made as a team, not unilaterally. I make multiple times what my husband does, and we have joint accounts. We do have our own credit cards for buying gifts for each other or other personal expenses, but most of our expenses go through the joint credit cards. We have found that a single pot approach allows us to budget better for our long-term goals and our month-to-month expenses. I have always had a higher salary, so I appreciate that he keeps me in check on my spending, but it is never in a nagging way. It is just a reminder that we have larger goals we want to achieve. I am in charge of our bills and overall finances, which suits my skills, and he is responsible for areas suited to his skills. We have a spreadsheet where we keep track of our checking, savings, brokerage, and retirement accounts that we both have equal access to. Story 11. It's funny how it is always our money until they start earning more. Then suddenly they want everything split equally. If it were me, I would tell her that either it stays the way it was, or you will be looking for an exit. She is clearly demonstrating a double standard. Story 12. My wife makes approximately $45,000 more a year than I do. We have joint billing and savings accounts and add our respective amounts monthly. The amounts are based on a percentage of our income, so she pays more than I do, not an equal split. The only joint bills paid from that account are items like mortgage, utilities, internet and phone, daycare, and groceries. Credit card bills are separate and subscription services are divided. For example, I pay for Prime and she pays for Netflix. We have never had any issues with one of us paying more than the other, and it has been easy to adjust things when needed. Story 13. I would not stay in that marriage. I would never think of my money with my wife. Your wife is selfish and stingy. We are an everything is ours couple. When we got married, I joked that I love my new car because it is a sporty little thing. She was very excited about all the hauling my Outback can do and never says, my car. Story 14. At different times, she has earned more than I have, and I have earned more than she has, but it has never mattered. Who cares? We prefer to be true partners in the relationship and work toward common goals. Therefore, all of our money has always gone into the same account, and anything over $100 is discussed. Story 15. We split everything, including bills. We have separate accounts and split vacation costs. What she makes is what she keeps, and what I make is what I keep. Life continues as normal. We do not have a power dynamic where whoever makes the money controls things. We also do not know how much the other makes. We consult each other on joint purchases such as tables and beds. Other than that, as long as bills are paid, we do not ask questions. What your wife is doing is believing power comes from money. Close that joint account, cancel all cards associated with it, and stay separate. As long as bills are paid, you are good. Story 16. Just in case I am missing anything. From your text, I gather that the only thing that changed is that she does not defer financial decisions to you alone anymore. Is that correct? Or is there more you haven't written? Edit. Just saw another of the original poster's comments today. Find a stock that you think will double in a year by call options of that stock with greater than 0.5 delta, and you should be at $100,000. Which stock to pick, I cannot say, no one knows. I can see why his wife does not want him to have control of the extra money. Investing and setting money aside is good. It is also reasonable that they say you cannot predict which stock is going to go sideways. But one, you really scare away people not into investing, even just starting out wanting to put common money into index funds. And two, at the point people start talking about options and deltas outside of finance professionals, you are interested in things too risky for the average person. Story 17. Regardless of how much she earns, her debt is your joint debt. If she fails to address it or does not want to admit it is a problem that needs fixing, there is only one thing to do about it. Story 18. We keep our finances separate, but discuss them regularly for shared expenses. I pay her every month for the mortgage and utilities, and we split shared expenses like dining out and groceries, settling up every other week or so. Story 19. She manages her bills and I manage mine. She pays the mortgage and some other bills. I pay all the household bills, including water, sewer, electricity, and my other bills. We talk about finances and plan for upcoming expenses like weekend trips. My wife is also a long-term planner who likes to plan vacations over a year in advance. Story 20. Sounds like she is building her life and you are no longer playing a starring role. That usually means there is another star involved. Story 21. My wife earns about 1/3 of what I do. She has no interest in handling finances. We deposit everything into two accounts, one for paying bills and one for day-to-day spending. Story 22. My wife and I always work for each other. Even though we have separate money, we are open communicators, and we have given each other money thousands of times. We do not keep anything selfishly. We work as a team. I currently make more than she does, but she will out-earn me in a few years. We set up a firm foundation well before that happens. Story 23. In my household, I am responsible for the mortgage, utilities, and automobile insurance. These are the three largest financial responsibilities. My wife is responsible for all other expenses. Story 24. This setup sounds exactly like how my wife and I do things, except I am the slightly higher earner. I do not see why it should not work just fine for you all. Our joint account pays for bills, and we have our own money to use as we see fit. Then we pool money for joint expenses like vacations or unexpected home or car repairs. It sounds like you first need to talk to your wife and then probably meet with a financial advisor, so you all can come up with a joint plan to tackle any shared debt and plan for future expenses like a new car, house, children, and eventual retirement. Story 25. When we moved in together, we paid rent proportionally. Her income was 60% of our total income, so we paid rent accordingly. That was mainly because she wanted to rent places that were otherwise out of our budget. Once married, we combined all finances, and everything goes into the same account. She earns more, but I also contributed much more to our house deposit, as I had a property to sell. So it works out pretty well. Story 26. What is hers is mine, and what is mine is hers. We do not talk about who makes more. Everything goes into our main account, and we take 10% and put it into savings from every paycheck. Story 27. Until the children, she earned more. There was never mine or her money, but I know I can trust her to be responsible with money more than anything. I probably would not stay if it were not so. Story 28. I have always earned more than my spouse, but they have recently caught up to me and are on track to surpass me in a few years. We have always had joint bank accounts since we got engaged and share all of our money. Everything we earn is ours and is to be used responsibly. Just because I earn more does not mean I get to spend more on myself. That will remain true for them when they surpass me in income. We discuss significant purchases, defined as anything for ourselves over $100 to $200, and all purchases for the household or the children. My spouse reminds me when I eat out too often and considers that wasteful of our money, so I have to be responsible there as well. Story 29. No, you do it equally based on income. Simply say if you want this dynamic, then the bills get split based on earning percentage. We will have separate accounts and create a postnuptial agreement that states any new debt will be yours in the event of divorce. We will equally pay off any current debt you and I have. If she complains or says no, I would say, if you don't like that, we can get a divorce and I will seek primary custody, child support, and alimony. Welcome to equality. It will be significantly more than that, as you are destroying our marriage and breaking trust anyway. Or let me rework our finances, and we go back on a budget and work on our marriage and family dynamic again. Story 30. I actually became a stay-at-home dad last August. My wife made almost triple what I did when I was working. In terms of bills, she pays them all, as she has always been better with money and enjoys organizing bill payments. I find it stressful even back when I was single. When I was working, we didn't split bills 50-50 exactly, but she paid the larger bills like rent, car insurance, and our car payment. Our other car is paid off. I paid smaller bills like internet, electricity, and water. For bigger purchases, she always asks for my opinion on whether we should buy something. It has been that way even when I was working. What makes your story interesting is that she now feels the need to handle all financial matters because she earns more. I never earned more than my wife, so I don't know how I would feel if the roles were reversed. Since I do not enjoy managing finances, I probably would not feel the need to take on that responsibility. Maybe she actually likes handling these things and just hasn't told you? Based on your financial history, it seems to me that you should still be involved in managing the finances. Story 31. Over the years between jobs, there were times we both earned more, but mostly I did. It didn't matter. We pooled our money as a family. We each took the same amount to spend weekly, and the rest went into the family account. During the years I was laid off, she worked a lot. Other times, she worked while I held 2 jobs at once. She had to. If married, one should live like a family. Money is just a necessity to get by. Story 32. We have combined our finances from the start. At first, I made more, and for the past 5 years, she has made more. We talk about money and communicate effectively. We set a strict budget for eating out and entertainment spending. She sometimes goes a little overboard, and I do occasionally as well. Bills are mostly split by size. She takes on the larger bills, such as the mortgage, car, and insurance. I handle the smaller, more numerous bills like internet, power, and subscriptions. I am more financially responsible as I was raised to be. She was not taught anything regarding money. It has been primarily my responsibility. We have separate accounts but have them linked since we have always had the same credit union. Story 33. I was married and earned more than my ex-wife. She loved to spend and rack up huge debts. One thing I learned is that once the spending habit started, it was game over. I couldn't get her to stop. You were talking about her debt, and that worries me. She is living beyond her means, like my ex, and doesn't care about the future, while I did. We ended up divorced. I don't have an answer, but I know the pain of not being on the same page with finances. You want her to live her life but also save for the future. Story 34. It's always our money, and my wife was definitely the irresponsible one. Yes, she has always made 15 to 30% more than me, but we're only talking about a 15,000 to 40,000 difference, so not really that much when you do the math. We never split finances. It was always one pool of money. It's only now that we're separating, and suddenly the realization is hitting her that she needs to be responsible. It's only now, after many years of me pushing to be on a budget and eventually giving up, that I'm suddenly hearing statements like, maybe we shouldn't buy certain things, or, doesn't it all even out in the end? Why do we have to be so particular about splitting things? That last one is easy. It's because I'm not going to be part of your irresponsibility. Funny how money becomes important when you're suddenly spending your own money. Story 35. My wife and I split the bills and expenses. We have weekly family meetings, and one of the topics we discuss is finances. I am the frugal one, so we balance each other out. I do not want to have a joint account because I feel like every expense would be scrutinized, as my wife can be quite particular. Story 36. One joint account, his account, and her account. A large percentage of money goes into the joint account for anything related to the house, bills, and groceries. Everything else remains in private accounts, and we manage as we go. Sometimes I have to cover more, so I put in more money. Sometimes he does. We both have control over our own finances. Story 37. Kind of wild, original poster. I couldn't do that at all. We combine everything. My wife earns a lot more than I do, probably almost double. But my job has better benefits. I am the one who manages our money, aside from her savings account. She puts whatever percentage her company matches in there. Essentially, all big purchases we run by each other like a team. We both live somewhat luxuriously, but not paycheck to paycheck. A lot of our nice stuff we save up for in a separate account or mental account before buying it. We do a lot of thinking, do I really want this? Before committing. We have not had many conversations about it because we're on the same page. A lot of it is like, I want this. We can afford that. I might get it. You should get it. Then the person gets it. There's no power dynamic or shift of power. We're a team. That's it. Money is nice. She makes more, but money is a means to an end. Story 38. I earn more, but I can't imagine it would change. I have a side account and she has a side account. Very little goes into those, but they are for things like our parents sending birthday money or 5% of her paycheck. These are effectively leftover relics from before we were married. 95% goes into the main account, and we virtually only use that for everything. I know how much she makes, but the idea of keeping score of who buys what and what percent that is or who is out isn't contributing sounds exhausting. Story 39. This is going to be entirely individual and depend completely on the relationship dynamics. No one else can help you with this. My wife gives me all her money, not because I am financially responsible, because I'm not. But you aren't me and I am not you. There are individuals making up these relationships, resulting in unique situations. How do we navigate this relationship dynamic? Nothing intentional, and there really hasn't been any discussion. She has always made more than me, whether she was a server and I was unemployed, or now that I am an engineer and she is a respiratory therapist. As far as management, basically her side covers baseline expenses like insurance and car payments, and I pay discretionary spending. It ends up being roughly the same percentage-wise. Control and responsibility just come down to doing what I want. At the end of the day, it's not like she doesn't enjoy nice dinners and other things. I suggest you find value in those things. That's what my wife does, and that likely comes from her being overly concerned with finances and never spending frivolously. So I tell her, buy yourself something new, whatever, because she never does that for herself. We are going to an event, go pick out a car, whatever. Whoever has control in the relationship has little to do with who is making the most money. It's just the dynamic. The relationship dynamic comes first and everything else follows. I feel like you are focused on the wrong things. Why not engage with your wife? Your focus on finances may very well be detracting from your life in general. Story 40. You combine everything. Review the monthly budget together, including the money each person can spend, and stick to the budget. There is no point in saving in one area when the other is accumulating debt or spending every penny. Attend couples counseling to better understand what has changed now that she is earning more. Story 41. We just have a shared bank account. It is funny she makes more than me, but I am the one who has to reel her in constantly and talk her out of bad purchases. We make a good team, actually. Without her, we would never buy anything, and without me, we would be living paycheck to paycheck. Story 42. There is nothing wrong with a 50-50 setup as long as both parties are responsible and one person is not adding debt that could negatively affect the other person. Story 43. I think this has less to do with income disparity and more to do with financial hygiene. You both need to be on board with how you spend your combined money, whether you make more or she does. Before we met, my wife lived at home and had a high-paying director position. She was also pursuing an expensive Master of Business Administration, so she saved a lot of money to pay that off and also saved enough to pay for one event of our wedding. She is Arab, I am Desi, so there were going to be multiple events. After we got married, I got a higher-paying job in another city, so she quit and moved with me. She did not work for about 8 to 9 months, so I paid for everything and gave her discretionary funds. After that time, she got a job at the same company where I work and rapidly rose through the ranks, so she now earns about 1.5 times what I make. We are both committed to retiring as early as possible, so we put as much money as we can away in pre-tax and after-tax accounts. I have always felt comfortable paying mortgage, utilities, and food, while she handles cars, insurance, phones, and other expenses, which is less than what I commit, but I am fine with it. She also plans and funds family trips, home improvements, and similar expenses. She does spend more extravagantly than I do, but in a measured way that benefits the family. Most of our accounts are separate because this country has racist policies that confiscate funds from people with names they do not like, and I did not want hers affected. You and your wife need to get on the same page. Goal setting may help. Maybe you both want to retire at 55, so start there and figure out how much you need to have saved, then work backward to how much you can save now to reach that goal. If you want to take periodic trips or buy a new car, that can be accommodated, but you will need to find more savings or delay retirement. Story 44. I'm a wife who, for almost the entirety of my relationship, has out-earned my partner. I believe that it's our money. We have separate accounts for bills and fun money. Money is deposited into the respective bank accounts on each of our paydays. There is no mine and his. It's ours. It is our money and our bills. Story 45. My wife earns significantly more than I do. We have always deposited everything into the same account without any issues. She lets me manage the money, bills, and purchases. It has never been a problem. Although she is a control enthusiast, she allows me to handle these tasks. She has no idea how much we have in stocks or cryptocurrency, or whether we are gaining or losing. We manage these investments for our children's future. Story 46. She got a raise and went into debt. She does not want you to manage the funds? No, stop. That is not reasonable at all. You two need therapy before you get too deep. Story 47. All paychecks go into a single account, and we each get a $500 guilt-free stipend per month to our own individual accounts. All food, gas, utilities, grooming, and basically everything other than video games and occasional fast food for me comes from the joint account. She handles the finances because she is far more adept at it. I was fine on my own with one bank account, one retirement account, and one investment account, but she manages maximizing points and discounts across about 10 accounts. I highly recommend the book Money for Couples by Ramit Sethi if you are struggling in this area. The book does not tell you what to do with your money. It is mainly about how to talk and feel good about money with your significant other. Story 48. I generally handle the finances, making sure bills are paid and that we are saving and investing appropriately. We have a joint account, and all of our spending is done through a credit card and paid off immediately to earn points. That said, we each have our own personal account, which is tied to our main account and not separate. We deposit $100 from each person's paycheck into their own personal account. This is for complete discretionary spending that the person wants but the other person may not necessarily approve of. For example, I am a bourbon collector, so if I want to spend $1,000 on a bottle of bourbon and have saved up the money to do it, I do it, and she is supportive of that. The only caveat is that we both agree if we are in any kind of financial trouble or need a splurge of funds, our personal accounts can immediately become our money again. Story 49. She leapfrogged me from about 30% less to 30% more 2 years ago. Proceeds from the sale of our first homes are 100% combined. Income is 100% combined. Retirement planning is set up to optimize our respective benefits. If something costs more than approximately $500, we inform each other. Ironically, she is a chief financial officer but wants absolutely nothing to do with our personal finance planning. If I did not update her yearly, she would have no idea what we have. Story 50. I would only feel comfortable in a relationship like this if a few points were agreed upon. The 50-50 money is to be used only for bills, groceries, and the mortgage. Her credit card debt must be paid by her, with what she has left, not out of the communal fund. If you decide to invest what you have left, then that is yours, not hers. She cannot come to you if she accumulates huge debt and expect you to use your money to clear her debts. As long as she understands your position, I do not see why you cannot keep things as they are. Story 51. One account for monthly household expenses that receives a deposit each month from each person based on income. There is a credit card tied to this account, And there are two cards so either person can stop for groceries on the way home from work. One account for long-term anticipated expenses and emergencies, such as a new roof, new heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system, water pump replacement on the car, joint vacations, etc. Deposits are made from each paycheck based on income. It requires two signatures to remove money from this account. A joint credit card is tied to this account. One or more accounts and investment accounts for long-term savings. Deposits are made each paycheck based on income. It takes two signatures to remove money from most of these accounts. Two accounts, one for each person, for discretionary spending funded by what remains after other accounts have been funded. Discretionary purchases like gifts while on vacation are put on the individual credit card of the person buying the gift. Vacation joint use items like meals out, adventures, and tickets go on the joint card mentioned above. Credit cards are in one person's name only except one that is joint for monthly household costs, including home and vehicle repairs, anticipated expenses like major costs of joint vacations, and one for routine monthly expenses such as utilities, groceries, and gas. Story 52. Some may not agree, but I think that is the right way to do it. Split 50-50 in a joint bank account. As long as the household expenses are taken care of, each of you can do whatever you want with the money you keep. If she chooses to spend all of her money, that is her choice. If you choose to live frugally, you can do that. Story 53. My wife and I have been playing financial leapfrog for decades with our careers. I would make more for a while, then she would take the lead for a while. A couple of years ago, she made a large career move that basically left me behind. The only downside is we no longer get to tease each other with neener. I make more now each time we get a raise. We keep a joint bank account where all our pay is deposited. We have an agreed-upon weekly allowance for each of us to spend however we want. All the bills get paid, and the remainder goes into savings. Story 54. The same way we handled it when I earned more. We have a joint account for bills, food, house expenses, and any joint debts or savings. We contribute to that proportionately based on our income, rounded down to the nearest thousand. This means there is always money to run the house, and we can be as generous as we like with the rest. Story 55. We have completely separate finances. Not out of distrust or anything, but sheer laziness because we had them established before we got married. Some bills come out of her account and some come out of mine. We invest from both and spend from both. Story 56. My wife makes twice as much as I do. We have always had joint accounts. She has some anxiety about finances, so I take care of all the bills. She doesn't spend much on herself, mainly on the house and kids' needs. We discuss major purchases before making them. Story 57. My wife and I put 80% of our checks into the household account and 20% into our private accounts. We have both made more or less than each other over the years, sometimes dramatically so. But it is our house, our money, our grocery bill, and so on. Story 58. Actually, for a long time, my wife made all the money for the house and I just got an allowance. I'm working and making more than she is right now, but it's not a big deal. She handles the bills, and I'm spending generously on everyone in our household. She's getting new shoes that just came out and some other clothing she picked out on my way home from work today. I started back in November, so I'm kind of catching up on things we wanted to do too. I'm thinking of doing a joint account for the bills and separate accounts for us, like you mentioned, but that's just so she doesn't need to say anything about part of my paycheck too. We're a team. That's what you signed up for, a team. Don't let ego get in the way of letting the team win. Just because you don't get the glory doesn't mean you don't get the win. Story 59. I've been single for about 15 years after being married for 22 years. During my marriage, we combined our finances and worked together as a team. It's one of the things that went well in the marriage. One thing I've noticed after meeting many women with different experiences is that when the man earns more money, the perception is that it's our money and he should pay more or pay for everything. This perception typically comes from people who don't have financial success. When they meet someone who is financially successful, they gaslight their way into entitlement. But when the woman earns more money, no one tells her what to do with her money. I'm sure this is not the case in all situations. However, I understand why a woman might feel that way, probably from being in an abusive relationship where the man was dominant over finances, or because she had to claw her way to the top in a male-dominated industry. In my experience, when a woman is financially successful and independent, she doesn't come across as entitled to someone else's money. It's typically very reciprocal. At age 60, I now prefer separate finances. You manage your money. I manage my money. We don't question each other about how we spend our money, and I won't ask permission for what I can spend my money on as long as we handle our financial responsibilities within the relationship. My attitude comes from finally having great financial success. I'm not going to meet someone at age 60 and have them start telling me how to manage or spend my money. I'm also very financially responsible, so I would have a difficult time taking advice from someone who has no financial success. Nor would I do that to someone else. Also, the perceptions I shared are not meant to bash women. I happen to be a man who dates women, so that is my only perspective. A woman could have similar experiences with financial success, and a man might come along and try to dominate and control her finances as well. Story 60. When we earned the same, we worked as a team. When she started earning more, suddenly she wanted to go 50-50. She has a large amount of high-interest credit card debt. Simply having a large amount of credit card debt, likely with a high annual percentage rate, should disqualify someone from making financial decisions. Paying off that debt should be a high priority. Individual retirement account contributions should be made automatically from a single account. I predict if you get a big raise or she goes part-time, and if you have children, she may want to return to a single account instead of 50-50. My wife and I have a shared account. I make roughly double her income. The discussion threshold has increased over the years as our incomes and net worth have grown, but we started with a rule to let the other partner know if an expense over $200 is coming up, to briefly discuss it. Questions include how necessary the expense is, whether it can wait, or if there is an alternative. We also share a password manager containing all passwords for all accounts to ensure transparency. I think your opening conversation should focus on setting retirement goals, amounts, dates, ages, and so forth. Cover the 4% rule. Show your current position. Use a financial planning website to do projections. Consider involving a financial advisor to lead the conversation, rather than relying solely on the lower-earning partner. Story 61. We have one account. I deposit my paycheck, and she deposits hers. All our expenses are rounded up, and our income is rounded down. The difference between the rounded number and the actual number allows for frivolous or impulse purchases. Anything over $100 that is not a bill is discussed beforehand and worked into the budget if needed. Story 62. Should always be based on earnings for it to be fully equal. Otherwise, it is roommate style. Most divorces are due to money issues. You two have discrepancies in your money behaviors. It is best to keep it separate until you both align. Since her promotion and additional money came after marriage, it will be considered both your money. Story 63. Split everything 50-50 because of something about the patriarchy. I also do not get to split the cost of yard-related items or garage tools, but have to split the cost of interior home decor items. Story 64. We have a joint account, and that is really the only answer. I am the money manager because I have a background in small business administration. We have a master budget worksheet built in Google Sheets, and she has access to it at all times. Sometimes we have monthly meetings, sometimes not. We have a spending checking account where all of the checks are deposited. As part of the master budget, I have allotted certain amounts to specific accounts. We have a billing checking account where the money is transferred after payday. We also have a goal checking account for vacations, debt reduction, holidays, and upcoming big expenses. Then we have an emergency savings account for emergencies. It is not about who makes more. Your money is our money, her money is our money. It is more about ego when it comes to her making more than you, rather than functioning practically. The only issue arises if she is making more money and you are the big spender. At that point, a conversation should be had. We have had times when my wife makes more than I do and times when I make more than she does, but it really does not matter. She is a spender, I am a spender too, but together we are responsible savers and payers. We have savings, the kids do not go without, and both our credit scores are in the 700s. We are good to go. Do not let pride, guilt, or shame get in the way. It is your money. Spend it. Story 65. My girlfriend, who I own a house with, makes about 20% more than I do, but also has student loans and other debts that she does not want me to help with. At the end of the day, that puts our gross disposable income at about the same. We split nearly everything 50-50. Story 66. I keep my own investments separate and use a joint account for shared expenses, avoiding debt and prioritizing savings. Story 67. All of our money goes into a single pot, but we have separate line items in our budget for personal spending money for each of us that we can spend on whatever we want. I think having some separate money is fine as long as it is budgeted and agreed upon, but splitting everything 50-50 just seems strange to me. Story 68. We have joint bank accounts and brokerage accounts. The only things separate are our individual retirement accounts and 401k plans. She earns around 23% more than I do. We talk about big purchases like house projects and vacations. I try to set a budget, but we never stay within it. We do not keep each other in check with spending since most of our savings are automated. I invest whatever is left over every month into our joint investment account. We are happily married. Story 69. My parents were this way. My mom made about twice as much as my dad. As I recall, finances were never an issue, and they combined their finances. They both direct deposited into the same bank account, and as long as neither spent too much and ran all big purchases past the other, there did not seem to be any problem. My dad also did most tasks around the house, like cooking and yard work. I rarely saw my mom do much to maintain the house, though she did laundry on the weekends. He was not a stay-at-home dad, for what it's worth. However, they have commented on other couples and how they do not really see how keeping finances separate could work. I suspect combining their incomes into one big bucket of money helped them. Story 70. My wife earns basically twice what I do at this point, but our overall financial goals are the same. We both contribute to a shared bank account. From that account, a certain amount is automatically invested into a portfolio each month. We both contribute the maximum amount to our retirement accounts. I am more of the financial person, so I keep track of everything more than she does. We talk about bigger purchases. We have had some arguments in the past about her spending, but I think we have reached a happy place where we each feel heard. We both work hard and deserve to spend some money here and there. I do not quibble about it too much as long as we are meeting our goals, but over time I have encouraged her to think more about how she spends money. I suggest figuring out what your long-term financial goals are. There needs to be some accountability on spending. If you can agree on your medium and long-term goals, then you can build a budget that works toward those goals, including a frivolous spending or fun money budget. Story 71. Many commenters seem to not address this point, which is the single most important part of your post. She lives a luxury, paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle and has built up a large amount of credit card debt. The fact that you phrased it that way, she lives, worries me. It seems intentional. Why does it sound like you live separate lives? Does she go out to fancy restaurants without you? Does she have a luxury car with a high monthly payment while you do not? You know where this is going. The fact that she is making more money than ever and is building higher and higher debt is a recipe for disaster, and you know this. I dislike the common advice to immediately say, leave her or leave him. Adults talk things through, and I hope you can calmly figure this out together. How to handle money and spending is probably the biggest issue most couples face. You need to get on the same page, and you need to do this now. As for how to have this conversation, you can frame it as let's work out a way to budget the household, and use that to bring up the subject of fiscal responsibility. Story 72. So she used you to pay off her debt and now wants to have her own money. Not cool. I would tell her that if she wants to go 50-50 now, that is fine, but 1. She owes you X dollars for the money you spent on her debts. Your lifestyle needs to be adjusted so that you are living within the budget of your paycheck and not hers. More explanation for my second point. You need to make a budget for just yourself, including everything: rent or mortgage payment, saving for retirement, what you can pay for children if necessary, going out, vacations, car payment, literally everything. Make sure you are reasonable. Do not budget $500 per month for rent when you know the cheapest place you can find costs $2,000 per month. Similarly, do not budget $50 per month for children when you know that is ridiculous. That becomes exactly half of the monthly budget for the household. If you can afford $1,000 per month rent, then you need to live in a place that costs $2,000 per month. Then if either of you wants to spend more, the difference is on them. If you want to live in a place that costs $2,500 per month, then you need to pay $1,500 while she still pays $1,000. If your combined budget for travel comes out to $5,000 per year and she wants to go to a high-end place that costs $10,000, then you would still spend $2,500 and she would pay $7,500. Keep in mind that she will have more extra money than you will, but she has made choices that have enabled her to have that. It might mean she goes on some solo vacations or can retire earlier than you, but that is how it is. This is the only fair way, as you should not be forced to live a lifestyle that is more than you can afford, and she should not be forced to subsidize your lifestyle because of choices you have made in your life. As far as your question goes, my wife and I put everything into a joint account and both have access to all the money. She makes more than I do now, and I made more in the past. We do not care as it is all our money, and marriage is not transactional as far as we are concerned. Story 73. My girlfriend and I have a joint account. We both contribute 50% of our salaries to it, so it is proportional to income. She used to earn more. Now I do. We pay our common expenses with it: mortgage, children's needs, food, and gas. We do what we want with the rest in our individual accounts. Mostly investing for me. It is the least drama-inducing method in my opinion. Story 74. If you are in a marriage that requires you to fight over whose money is whose, you have made a bad decision. If it does not feel like a team, then it is time to find a teammate. Story 75. We both contribute equally to a joint account to cover shared bills. What remains is ours individually, in our own accounts to spend as we choose. However, I will never marry my partner. Story 76. Now we are doing a strict 50-50 setup. Unless your income is 50-50, you should not be splitting expenses 50-50. You are a married couple, not roommates. When my wife was working before our children, we split our contributions based on our income. I paid 70%, she paid 30%. Ultimately, you need therapy. It is quite evident you will not be able to navigate this alone. You need an objective third party. Story 77. I guess I'm the outlier here, but separate bank accounts have always been the best form of trust for me. Split the bills according to earning ratio, then whatever you have left is your own money. She can spend whatever she wants, and I don't have to worry about it. I can buy whatever I want without asking permission. You trust the other person to take care of the responsible things first. Plan to have a quarterly check-in to make sure the variable spending feels fair. You both need to come ready to listen to the other person. If she says, "I think we eat out too frequently," then be ready to say, "I will step up," or, "I'm not sure I have the money right now. Let's try to eat at home more or pick cheaper places, and I can buy." She wants a nice vacation? You say, "I can only contribute about 1/4 of what I'll need. Would you like to cover the rest? Or do you want to pause and let me save for a bit?" But this also means you have to let her not care about the investment portfolio. You can and should have the conversation about it, but at the end of the day, it is her choice. This has worked for us when we were both poor, when I got my big promotion, and when she surpassed and doubled my salary. Money is one of the easiest parts of our relationship. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.